he was a martial artist on stage.
Vishnu you might have to share. If you've got internet, then obviously that's but if you don't have internet, you can't do it on the telephone.
Yes, please.
Go ahead, two more, actually. Hare Krishna, thank you everyone for coming and giving me the mercy of your association. I'll just start with prayer. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Salakya Katsuram Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Guru Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamrupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapandikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavascha Sri Rupam Sarvajatam Sahagana Raghunathatmitam Tam Sri Shivam Sarvatam Sarvadutam Parijanaya Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visaksamritam Scha He Krishna Karosandhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesra Gopikanta Radha Kanta Namaste Bhakta Chancha Gorangi Radha Vrinda Sati Vishabhavu Sutadevi Pranamai Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Trupascha Kripa Sindhuya Evacha Patitanayam Pavadayo Vishnavayo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, Emmanuel has got something. Before I give the handout out, hopefully I have enough. I will start with why we are here, because without why we are here, we can't really progress. So I'll just wait 1 second for him to come. I think he's just giving someone direction. Oh, we're just waiting. This is 1 second. No worries. I'm just saying, we're not going to start, so don't stress. Okay. So I think it's important to understand why we are here, to set the right tone of then how to get out of here. So at some point in our lives we were playing in the spiritual world, and there's one concrete rule in the spiritual world. And that rule is hinted in a very big way by the final paragraph of the final commentary to Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, where he says the natural state of the living entity, where he will be most happy, in fact, the only state where he can be happy, is in the pleasure-giving potency. And when we were in the spiritual world, we decided that we're going to turn the word giving into pleasure taking. We swapped the giving for taking. So we were in this wonderful mood of how do we help the person next to us to help the person next to us, to help the person next to us, to help the person next to us to serve Krishna. And we decided that we didn't want that happiness of being pleasure giving. We wanted it for ourselves. So we came into the material existence, and life after life after life, we're trying to understand that taking is not pleasurable and it comes with unfortunate punishment, which is known as albidod, repeat birth, old age and disease. And now some beginning, at least for myself, maybe a beginning of some common sense is coming through this many lifetimes process of albidod. But maybe I shouldn't be so selfish and think about giving pleasure rather than constantly taking it for myself. So the nature of the soul is to love and give love, bring love. And this is what's been covered up by material energy. So we have to do the process of uncovering. And even though Srila Prabhupada's infinite mercy has given us guidebooks, guidelines, hints, commentaries, thousands of lectures flying around the world, because of our constant lifetime after lifetime association with pleasure taking, we are struggling to get back to pleasure giving. And the spirit of Vrindavan is very simple. It is to help the devotee next to you in their journey back home. And in that, your own journey will be accelerated. But if you make this journey about yourself only, then it is quite a struggling journey. Yeah? So giving is the essence of the spiritual world, and whereas taking is the essence of the material world. So we're trying to get back to that original nature. So I'll give the handout. We'll start, if we put that context in mind, we'll start with the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita. I may not have enough actually for everyone. You might have to share.
So one might be 23.
Yeah, I've got about 8. It was really odd. Krishna was telling me the Paramatma, print out 10 or 12. My mind was denying it, my arrogance, saying, no, only 8. 4 people will turn up, let me do 8. Of course, I was completely wrong. Krishna showed me that, again. Okay, so I'll do some structural points. And then
There's 14 of us here.
yeah. I won't tell you my math score.
12 is pretty close. You're almost into
I did 8, yeah.
Not quite.
Not quite, I'm well off. Yeah. Okay, who doesn't have one? I realise I've actually got one on my phone, so you can take it. Okay.
No.
I've got a spare one because I realised I've got one in the work in Microsoft Word. So I've got one more.
Is a spare one?
Spare one, yeah, I've got it on my phone. Okay, so if you bear in mind what I just said in the introductory comments, and we go to verse 1.1 of Bhagavad Gita, right? So I just read, if you were here last week, I'm just summarising what we did. So forgive me. Now,
1.1.
1.1. So this is, as I said last week, a very overlooked verse. And there's about 3 levels you can look at this verse. Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, this is the Bhagavad Gita 1.1, deciding to fight, what did they do? Yeah? And last week we said there's 3 different approaches to this. One approach is you just read that and go, okay, that's interesting, let's move on to the next page. So that's one approach. Another approach which is important, is this is Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra, a pious place of battle, where piety and Dharma will win over adharma. And Dhritarashtra is known for siding with with adharma, and he's encouraging his son to take something which does not rightfully belong to him. So in the end he'll be defeated. But the more important interpretation perhaps is the phrase, after my sons and the sons of Pandu. That's probably the most important bit, because that shows that he is in the bodily conception of life. He should not make a distinction between the bodies of his sons and the bodies of the sons of Pandu. They're all part of God. And so he should have seen them as one whole family. But because he saw these distinctions of mine and yours, Pandu, this is my sons, this is your sons, that distinction, covered by illusory potency, he has created the situation where everyone's ended up on the battlefield. Yeah? So seeing everyone's part of God would have wanted that. And that's a natural state. Those fake designations is a natural state for the pleasure-taking soul. You know, they want to enjoy for themselves. Not that the sons are for Krishna or everyone belongs to Krishna. No, this is something that's for me. You know, the attitude. So I'm just summarising from last week. So that is an important point because that leads to the whole problem of what everyone has to face on this battlefield. So then we talked about Bhagavad Gita, structure of Bhagavad Gita, and structure of Bhagavad Gita is quite simple. There's a sandwich with some cheese in it, 2 pieces of bread, and the bread is important, but not as important as the middle bit of the sandwich, like any other sandwich. So the first 6 chapters are the top piece of the bread, what we call Karma Yoga. The middle chapter, 6 chapters are Bhakti Yoga, which is a fundamental essence of Bhagavad Gita. And the final piece of bread is Jnana Yoga. Bhakti Yoga, which is the important part of the sandwich, is put between those 2 bits. Very cleverly. So you go around reading Gita and then you understand the Bhakti Yoga part. And the middle chapters have, they're very interesting in the way they're structured because what is going on, of course, all the way through is a conversation. But the middle chapters, there's always a question at the end of one chapter that leads to the discussion in the next chapter. So if you look at the last verse of chapter 6, 6.47, Yogi Nama Pisonesa, Matkananda Atman, Arjuna, the description is given of one who will find Krishna. So Arjuna is immediately implying, how can I always see you everywhere, all the time? So the entire 7th chapter is about how do you get to the stage in 6.47 of seeing Krishna everywhere. And so on for those middle chapters. So if you get lost, always ask what is the question that's being asked to be explained in the previous chapter, in those 6 chapters, Bhakti Yoga chapters. In chapter 7, of course, Krishna explains how to see him everywhere, to see that everything is really a part of him. I am the taste of water. I am, I'm all the Vedic syllable in all the mantras, and of warriors, I am Arjuna, and so on. So he's explained that he's the essence of everything in the material world. The material world manifests from him. And then he takes you through that journey, and then you've got chapter 6. So chapter 7, chapter 9 are mirrors of each other. Chapter 9 is a more detailed version of chapter 7. And all this we will cover in the next few weeks, so you don't have to stress about it. So we can get to an understanding of why it's been put in a particular sequence, so that when you get to your chapter 12, in some ways, arguably a very important chapter, because it's the key performance indicators of a devotee. Whether you meet the requirements in chapter 12. At the end of chapter 12, it's given how a devotee should behave. He shouldn't be affected by things external to him because he's always well situated in bhakti. And then if you want to work out where you need to progress to, because in life it's important to have a goal rather than just drift, then that's what you're aiming for, the stuff in chapter 12. So that's your guidebook. Krishna is giving you the answer of who is very dear to him. So that's some of the background of what we covered last week. Today we're going to look a little bit at Karma Yoga, because in the material world, now that we've decided that we might want to get out of this material world and get away from repeated birth, death, and old age and disease, that we have to understand what kind of actions we have to do, what are the correct types of action, and what are the incorrect types of action, actions that we should avoid. And to understand that gives us a little bit of a nature of understanding the material world. So if I go back to my sandwich, you've got your 6 chapters of Karma Yoga, 6 chapters of Bhakti Yoga, 6 chapters of Jnana Yoga, and then you've got 5 core topics of the Bhagavad Gita running through those chapters. which are the supreme, the soul, time, material nature, and karma. Yeah? And karma is an important, those 5 columns are important to understand. And you'll know this soon, if you don't know already. So we're going to look at karma a little bit, because that's the first part of the first 6 chapters, the top of the sandwich. Everyone with me so far?
Yeah.
So I'm repeating myself, the new people have come, so forgive me for, and everyone may know this, so, but it's important to go through the basics. So Karma Yoga, we have, rather than going to the terminology, if we just look at something from a simple point of view, we have selfish acts and unselfish acts. Okay. And in unselfish acts, there are 2 types of acts. The unselfish acts for others, but you enjoy doing them, like giving to a charity that investigates the causes of cancer, would be one of those things. And then there's unselfish acts, which are acts done not for yourself, but for Krishna. So where we want to do is, eventually, every day of our lives, we want to live every moment of our day, but everything we do, we want to be acting only for Krishna. But it's very difficult, because, as I said at the start, you have to understand when you are pleasure-taking and when you're pleasure-giving. And then focus on what your thoughts are. So if the international audit team of thought control came at you at the end of the day, like it will at the end of your life, and it said to you, now here's a spreadsheet with 780 entries. These are all the thoughts you had today. 655 of them were for yourself. And in my case, probably 781, but 655 of them were for yourself. 120 of them you did for your family, which is kind of like for yourself but not. And then you did 23 thoughts you have for Krishna. It's okay, because you're still here, and it's time to change the, you're going to have the next audit review, it's time to change the percentages on that. Yeah? So you can work on your how you do. But, with it, whether it's jnana yoga or just mundane philosophy, human beings have always known that where your thoughts are, create your actions. So thoughts are important. So we want to be ideally thinking about Krishna all the time. And there's some practical examples of that, very simple ones I gave last week, which are always worth repeating. Sometimes people get up and they mechanically brush their teeth, because they don't want their teeth to rot, they don't want to look ugly. Right? And some people brush their teeth because they're going to smile in front of a deity of Krishna, and they want to look clean for Krishna. So there's 2 different things. There's a selfish way of looking at it, and there's a little bit less selfish way of doing that, and they're doing that act for God. Sometimes people who start Bhakti yoga, they will make breakfast and they will offer it to God. Krishna, yeah. If they're that process. But sometimes they will go a little bit beyond that. They'll go, right, Krishna, it's time for breakfast. What do you want to have to eat? And I'll have some strange discussion with Krishna. Would you like some porridge oats? Or you don't feel like that today, Krishna? What about Cocoa Pops? And what they do is start assessing. What I want is this. Let me take that away. I want the chocolate breakfast. I will make oat breakfast for Krishna. So I'm taking away what I want, selfishly, and putting Krishna into that occasion. So I will now make breakfast for Krishna. And then out of that we start developing little symptoms of maybe love or affection, because we're now making breakfast. So we got out of bed, we brushed our teeth, we had our shower for Krishna, because we want to be clean for Krishna when we first say chant. We're chanting for Krishna, then we're making breakfast for Krishna. So we're already on a good start. Right? If the audit team came in at this point in the morning, then we put a pretty high score. But then it gets a bit problematic, because we have to go to work, and we're surrounded by other people who are not in Krishna consciousness. So eventually you'll see one of the KPI indicators in chapter 12 of how far you are in your bhakti is how you react to other people. That's one of the benchmark tests. You know, every time there's an iPhone, there's a speed test on the new processor. So this is the one for your Bhakti. So how far are you getting in terms of other people? It's okay if you lived on a desert island with no one else there, and one deity, you might be fine. But the real world doesn't work like that. So you've got other people coming in, you know, brushing against you. And then that's the test of where your Bhakti is. So the way to do that is you're going to have to escape. Use time, use a clock. You know, when Purna-Kisora started, I don't know if you know read the biography, but early days he was working in a restaurant. I think a hamburger restaurant at one point when he was working. He had to do these jobs to kind of keep himself going whilst he was helping Srila Prabhupada. And what he used to do on a practical level is he used to go out and take a 10-minute break as if he was a smoker and chant. You know? So he was bringing Krishna back in quickly. Because if you imagine this imaginary audit that we're talking about of our thoughts and where our mind is, we're bringing Krishna back into that process quickly. We've not done 50 minutes of material work. And eventually the work is also being done for Krishna, because any money he got, he was getting books and distributing them. Right? So now his audit was looking quite good by lunchtime, you know, and so on for the rest of the day. So that is important. So we have to learn, and this is why japa, chanting meditation, is quite important, because it allows us to know more about our thoughts, especially when you can't concentrate on japa. That's when you learn where your mind really is going, and then learn to bring it back. You know? So the japa is quite a useful tool for realigning your thought process. So there's some practical things there. So we have this verse, which is on the handout, and so just we'll talk about this. We'll do questions at the end, so I'm sure some questions. Kamaya karmaya pasyat, akarmija karmaja, sabbudim manusiyam, sayukta Krishna karmakrit. One who sees inaction in action, and action in inaction, is intelligent amongst men, and he is in a transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. Very famous verse. So, so the difficulty comes in what does it mean by seeing action in inaction, and action in action. The understanding test that Krishna is presenting to see if you understand what karma is and what karma yoga is. So karma, who knows the answer to this? Who knows? Stick your hands up if you know the answer to this riddle.
Can you repeat again?
Yes, so the verse. Who understands what action and inaction is, and inaction in action? If you know, just stick your hand up. Everyone's so humble here.
Action is the karma you are doing for yourself. Inaction is the karma you are offering to Krishna. It's called akarma, like.
Not really, but you're on the right path. It's a good start. It's a good start. Okay, I'll explain. I'm sure you all know, you're just putting my neck, but anyway, I'll explain anyway. So, let's take inaction. Let's take the context of what's going on, right? That's important. So Arjuna is here, he's on the battlefield. He was very excited, right? And one of the strange things that we're going to do in this class is I'm going to get 7 speakers in here, and I'm going to play you lots of conch shells and drums and all that sort of stuff. So you kind of start to understand. I'm going to do it quite loudly and annoy the neighbours, right? So you can understand what was going on when Krishna was taking him between the two armies. It was very, very noisy and really scary, you know. And it's like, oh my God, noise everywhere. And suddenly he looks up and he sees Bhishma and Drona, right? Bhishma, who's his great-great-grandfather, and Drona, who's his teacher. And a penny drops with him. God, I'm going to kill these guys, you know. This is not really, and all this noise is going on. It's like, you know, that change. I'm turning up, I'm going to fight. You know, confuses him, right? And Krishna, by the end of the Bhagavad Gita, is also getting Arjuna to fight, right? And this is an important concept, because what Krishna is saying here is, there is karma, adverse karma, in inaction, in not acting. But there's also no karma in acting. And you have to understand when that applies. You know? So, if you run off the battlefield and go, oh, I don't want to kill Bhishma, oh God, I don't want to attack Drona, there will be some karmic repercussions for not doing your duty. And if I stay on the battlefield and do my dharma, do my duty, there will be no karmic reactions. Yeah? So the inaction in action is the lack of adverse karma for doing your duty. Right? And when you look at chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Gita summarized, you understand that actually what's going to happen in the Bhagavad Gita is it's not going to matter by the end of it whether there's karma or not karma. Right? So for the normal embodied being, which is the soul in a physical body in the material world, not acting according to their duty, not looking after their family, not turning up to work, and will have karmic repercussions. Yeah? As well as acting and doing their duty, even though they may be doing mistakes and doing wrong things, Krishna explains, that will lead to very little karmic reaction. But then there's a place above that. So we have the ladder of karma. Right? So to get out of any karmic reaction, you know, we have to put ourselves out of the equation. Yeah? And we start with what's called a sakama yoga, which is I approach God because I want something. Yeah? That kind of action. Which is an acknowledgement of God, so it is a kind of, people say yoga, mishra, bhakti, a mixture. In every yoga there's an element of bhakti. So there's a yoga, mishra, bhakti, which is a mixed devotion. I want something, I recognize you, you can give it to me, you're all powerful, you give it to me. I want something, I do something for you, you do something for me. It's a transactional relationship with God. It's not a very elevated relationship, but in chapter 7, Krishna says, it's the start of a relationship with me. And then you have something beyond that, above that, which is you have the kind of nishkama karma yoga, which is I act, and the fruits of whatever I get, I give to the Lord. Because I realize who the controller is. And then you have, above that, you will have Bhakti Yoga, which is the act itself is devotion. So the question Arjuna asks, the famous question is, why do you want me to do this ghastly warfare? Horrible act. You want me to be a butcher? I'm a devotee. Come on, let's go over here. It's a bad deal. Yeah. In America they say, I loved you, man. What happened? God. No, bad deal. Right? But actually, acting for the Lord's interest is when you get to Bhakti. Yeah? And the way you do that in Bhagavad Gita is you find a guru, okay, who's representative of Krishna, and you do what the guru tells you to do. Yeah? But Krishna will explain in the Bhagavad Gita why that is difficult, to just find the guru and surrender. Right? Because you've had many lifetimes of pleasure taking, go back to the earlier concepts. So your ego is, hey, I can do it alone. Yeah. Right? What's one of the KPIs of Bhagavad Gita? Getting rid of the I can do it alone mentality. False ego, I can do it. The Lord doesn't exist, I'm the controller. You know? I know. That's why I ended up in a material body. Yeah, now, so what do I do now? Oh, I've got to surrender to some human? God, no, God. Then it gets so confusing, and you go, but you have to pause and take a deep breath and go, What does that say about the false ego? Can't surrender to spiritual master. Representative of Krishna. Yeah? So that's where you kind of will get the everything you do will end up for Krishna because you'll be guided by somebody. And that's when you kind of really let go. Imagine your ego is a balloon. It will come out, the air will come out, and eventually you'll, You've got normal balloons. I've got a helium balloon. My ego is 4,000 sizes more than a person. So it's taken me a lot longer than, maybe the next few million lives. So there we go. So that's the idea. But Krishna is very, very merciful. He loves all souls, right? So he gives you a process. He says, look, why don't you start by giving me a little bit? Just have a little bit of faith. Give me a little bit. Yeah. You've made $100. Give me $1. Yeah? You can do $1. Absolutely. And that's the journey starts beginning because it's becoming less self-interested. The action. Yeah? So the audit team goes, okay, there's a possibility here. Yeah? You know at the end of your life, the Yamadutas are going to be your audit team, right? They're going to come along, in your last breath, and they're going to go, okay, how have you gone on in this life? What's going to happen in the next life? Yeah? And one of the cleanest definitions of karma, of course, in the Bhagavad Gita, in a commentary by Srila Prabhupada, is, of course, actions pertaining to the creation of embodied bodies. So you're determining, when you're not acting for Krishna, you're determining what body you're going to have back in the material world. It's actually quite important then to get your actions right. What are you going to come back as? Yeah. If you live your life, which is pleasure for the material world, you've lived it exactly like a fly eating stool. Because that's material energy. It's enjoying the material energy, right? That's how you live your life. So you've left it open to the Yamadutas to go, well, it's not, wasn't that important to me, I'm still a pleasure taker. If you really, really love material pleasure, that might be a nice place for you to be. You're enjoying the nitrogen and the hydrogen and the oxygen in the stool as a fly. Because that's what you want to do, it's pleasure taking. It's a lovely example of a really good pleasure taker, that soul, the one in the fly. So that's why our actions are going to be a bit careful with how we act and how we progress. But Krishna is very merciful. He's infinitely merciful. Our mercy and forgiveness is finite. Krishna's infinite. So he can drag us towards him even when we make a tiny step with a bit of sincerity. So we do that $1 and 100, and Krishna will help facilitate more and more actions towards him. Right? That is the love of God. Right? Another way to look at it is that we were all in the spiritual world at some point. We fell out, went to a puddle in the corner, started playing with ourselves. Right? Now Krishna, he could have said, they're really bad, I'm going to kill all those souls. Right? They're part of my own body. They're part of me, therefore they're eternal, I'm still going to kill them. He didn't do that. He said, they want to enjoy. Keshav Swami recently did a talk on this. They want to enjoy. Because of them, I will create the material world. Because they want to enjoy. So, Keshav Swami was saying, we are the cause of the material world. Our rebelliousness is the cause of this material world. Krishna doesn't want us to be in here. Right? The government, the citizens and the government don't want people to be in prison. They want them to go out there and contribute to society. And so the purpose of the material world is twofold: to refine our intentions, brackets towards God, refine our intentions, and through that reform our conduct. We get old and we're dying, we're in pain, our pancreas isn't working, our kidneys aren't working, our legs aren't working. We think, oh, this wasn't such a good deal. It felt good when I was young. Oh, I regret it too late. Karma comes in. Reborn. bit more enjoyment, gets old again. Oh, this is not a good idea, this is not a good idea, why did I do it? It was fun while I was young. And so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. It goes on. One day the penny has to drop. You know? If you meet a devotee, that will happen. You've got that advantage. You know? But how do you get out of here? That's the question. And the biggest, simplest way to get out of here is to use the tools that Krishna has given in the scriptures, fundamentally to be a pleasure giver, to show mercy to other living entities. If you can show mercy to other living entities, you are closer to the value system of Vrindavan, you can go back to Vrindavan. What will make you a better devotee is working out what difficulties the devotee next to you has in their own sadhana, in their own journey, and helping them. That will accelerate you towards Krishna. That's the most important thing. The false egoist always wants to go on their own. They always don't want to have a spiritual master. They always try to figure it out after many lives, figure it out. There's no need. By helping others, the answer will come of whatever your problems are. Krishna designed the system that way, so that the material energies refine your intentions and reform your conduct, so you become selfless as you progress through this life. That is the aim. Yes, it's good, you can go to the temple or go to a Kirtan club and so on. But helping others, that's Prabhupada's spirit. Wandering around the world as an old man, mercy for all these souls that have fallen into illusion. That's the example he said it. You know. And if an old man can do it at 69, get on a boat with whatever it was, 40 rupees, get a few heart attacks, arrive in New York, and go to the worst part of New York, in the cold, damp winter, having just been in India, and wander around amongst druggies and criminals, and start preaching. What excuse have we got? Well, we have an excuse. We have for many lives rebelled, and we have to go on a path of reformation before we can get to that point. So we have to do the hard work to get to the KPIs in chapter 12, so we pass the test. But that can be accelerated by helping other people. So let's go back to karma for a second. Sorry, I drifted off there. Forgive me. So you've got your Sakkarma yoga. I approach God for myself. It's a transactional relationship. I give you something, you give me something. Come on, I want a new car. Come on. Give me a new house, a bigger house. I want a girl. Give me a girl. Transactional relationship. As if God should be your butler. That kind of approach to things. Krishna, at least you recognise me. Let me see what's in your previous karma. Maybe I can give it. So that kind of approach. And if your Sakkarma yoga isn't very strong, if you don't get what you want, like, hell with God. I don't want God anymore. I want Trump. So that's much better. He's going to give me everything. Okay. Right? So we can go a bit crazy. But then you've got your Nishkama Karma Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga, right? Selfless acts. I do stuff in the material world. I enjoy what I do in the material world, right? And I then give the fruits to Krishna, which will eventually stop me from wanting to do material actions and enjoyment. And then I can move to Bhakti. Because the phrase ghastly warfare, Arjuna finding ghastly warfare, although he by nature is a warrior, he doesn't like to kill people. He finds it ghastly. But it turns into bhakti, because at the end he's doing it for Krishna. So then you're going, okay, I've got to go out in the morning in the cold. If you're in a cold country like Finland, there are lovely devotees there. I saw a couple of years ago in the snow. I mean, the snow was up to like, I don't know, you guys are from Russia, right? You're used to the snow. And snow, so you have to basically wade through snow and freeze up to here to get to the temple door. And there people were turning up. and you know, it was -7 or something, you know. They were going in there and they were like, Hare Krishna, you know, and they were like doing whatever they could to kind of get into the temple and do some kirtan, you know. And you can't really go in the car even. You know. So its endeavour is fundamental to getting on that path of selflessness. You know. By the end, Arjuna knows one important thing as well, that Krishna has taken him through with understanding of the material world. The 24 elements of it. And we were talking about japa at the start. And one of the tricks of japa is to understand that just like we're not the body, that's very commonly known in Krishna consciousness. I'm not the body, I'm not the body, I'm not the body, right? And I said a few weeks ago to Adi Purusha in the class that Prabhupada warns that that's not enough. You have to know what that is firstly. You have to know what to do with the body. You know. Yeah. But people limit that definition, unfortunately. That's not Krishna saying, they say, well, I'm not this body, I'm not this arm. But that's not what Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita. Because that doesn't help you in japa. It doesn't help Arjuna. What he's saying is the body is the physical body and the subtle body. Two halves of a coin. There's the mind, the false ego, and intelligence. Right? And I don't know who I was having a debate when we were talking about this. Srila Prabhupada, you know, people wondering in the early days why he doesn't sleep. He's up all night writing books every night. Like, you know, he sleeps for 1 hour and he's always chanting, he's always flying around. I mean, you know, even the druggies that were coming, what's he on? what's he taking? You know, how's he doing it? You know, and the answer to that is Prabhupada has totally understood the message of the Bhagavad Gita. He's not the body. I mean, he's in his mind telling him, go back to sleep. The bed is so nice. Come on, Swami, let's go to sleep. Be comfortable. You know, I'm not the mind. That's just the call of the body. It's like the boys say, eat now. Time to eat before all the devotees do. Be a Swami. No, he can control his mind. He knows he's not the body. The urges of the body, the tongue, I want to eat. Of the mind, I want to go to sleep. Oh, I don't want to get up today and do japa. You know, you're not the mind. It's a concoction of many lifetimes. Don't be seduced by it. It's temporary. Right? It's not, yeah, that is completely understood by Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna knows that. By the end of the Bhagavad Gita, he knows he's not the mind. So all these voices, oh, Drona, my lovely teacher, look at his flowing beard, and, you know, withering the wind, going in the wind, and oh, Bhishma, oh God, oh, I played with Bhishma as a child. Hang on now, these are concoctions of the mind. You know, so wonderful devotees say wonderful things in magazines like Back to Godhead. You know, like, hang on, your uncle, your grandson, your mother, what are you talking about? Like, you know, if you want to come on a metro train, the metro train stops at 10 stops, right? You know? And then the metro train, like every stop, different people come on, different people go off. Different people come on, different people go off. Different people come, yeah. I mean, you might have been my sister in my last life, I don't know. You know? You might have been my mother, I don't know. Right? Why are we so attached to these things? You know? For Arjuna at the end of the Bhagavad Gita is very clear. He's not like, he sees them as souls in those bodies because of a reason of what they did in their previous lives. And they've ended up, because of that nature, you know, Prabhupada explains that Drona and Bhishma have to die because they didn't do anything when Draupadi was disrobed. Outside Dharma, they had to be punished because they were men of high knowledge. They should have killed
Shakuni.
I know it was Duryodhana's brother.
Dushasana.
They should have killed Dushasana when he was trying to discredit Draupadi, right? They should have killed him. But they did nothing. They weren't Kshatriyas. They were acting adharma. They have to pay the price. With such knowledge, with such high birth, to misbehave is not appropriate. You have to be punished. But that's a punishment. It's just a blessing from Krishna. Because this is not even his body. Don't worry about Drona. Don't worry about Krishna. So, one important thing in reading this extraordinary version of the Bhagavad Gita by Srila Prabhupada. Very simple. The commentary is equal to the text that Krishna is saying. Because Prabhupada is a direct representative of Krishna. People read the black text of the, and they read the commentary as if it's like, it's a picture of George Clooney, and then it's like what George Clooney was doing. It's not so important. He looks lovely there. There's George Clooney in the garden playing golf. There's George Clooney. What's it say? Oh, it doesn't matter what it says about him. Don't approach it like that. Srila Prabhupada is a bona fide representative. He's equal to Krishna in that sense. Right? What he's saying is as important, in some ways to understand, more important, as important as the black text. I only started understanding this when I started writing the slokas and the commentary, trying to memorize the commentary. That's when it started, like some of it anyway, I hope started getting into my brain, but it won't happen if you don't respect that Srila Prabhupada is on the same level here as Krishna. You have to grasp that. No one else could have jumped on a boat and got a heart attack at 69 and ended up in a den in New York and done this. It just wasn't possible. So have that sort of, through love, he's written that commentary. Have this great humility when approaching that commentary. That you're very lucky to be able to read it. There's a lovely video about the making of this book, if you've seen it, but worth watching. With Ramananda Das, wasn't it? Did the video, the first Midden publication, and it was it was struggling to get a public publisher for it. And then they called up Macmillan, not thinking that they'd be interested. And of course, they were looking for a Bhagavad Gita translation at that time. That's Krishna's arrangement, right? And he did the fantastic, I think you still get that original, bigger version. But that was in itself, and it probably was Krishna through Prabhupada speaking. And another question that used to come up, talking about karma yoga, is why people back home in India we used to chant 64 rounds. So how can they go back to Godhead with 16 rounds? So this was the question. Anyone know the answer to that one? Well, the answer to that is now the same point, just making about the commentary. Srila Prabhupada is such an elevated devotee of Lord Krishna that if Srila Prabhupada says it's 16 rounds, Krishna can always be moved by a pure devotee or allow it to happen. Because he's at that level. Yeah? So that's the answer to that question. If anyone asks you that question. It's Prabhupada's extraordinary bhakti that gives you the passage on 16 rounds and the 4 religious principles. He's done the work for you through his own bhakti. You're riding, it's like a big, you've imagine a little boat and there's big waves, right, and you find this huge oil tanker that's going through the ocean, and you happen to go in the back of it, so it's an easy time for you. He's already done it all for you. You're riding his karma, you're riding his bhakti. Bhakti. So you call that huge benefit. So the commentary is very important because you're riding that whale through the ocean. Good easy surf. So where am I in my hand at? Because I've got it. Okay. So in the Bhagavad Gita you'll see, and we're going to do each of these topics in much more detail, so don't stress that, you're not getting it all in one go. So the word transcendental is brought up a lot in the book, in the commentary and in the main text, right? And it has a specific meaning. So I used to teach law when you get legal clients, they look at the law and they go, well, that says that, but actually you need the key to translate it. You need to understand what the word actually means in legal context. Legal context doesn't mean the same thing. So the word transcendental has a very specific meaning in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay? It means that all karmic actions done for self-interest, for self-pleasure, pleasure-taking, right, are all done in the material world under 3 modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Okay? So any engagement with any of the senses of the material world, touching, hearing, knowledge acquiring senses, seeing, that's done for your own interest, it's it's going to be to the modes of nature. Right? Not transcendental to the modes. It's only when you engage the senses in your actions for Krishna do you stand above the modes. Right? So if you look at the verse, one who sees inaction, action, inaction, is intelligent amongst men, i.e. you don't get the karmic reactions in the modes of nature, and he's in a transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. I could be digging a road, that could be my livelihood. But actually what I'm thinking about, I'm digging the road is, I don't know, I'm going to get paid $85 this week. What's the fruit that Krishna wants? Come on, Krishna, tell me. What would I love to bring you? Digging the road. Somebody else next to him digging the road. I'm going to spend this on 17 cans of beer. There's the difference. One is in the mode of ignorance, which we'll discuss, and the other one is above the modes of nature, he's doing it for Krishna. So we'll go into those modes of nature. Okay, so so the virtual reality computer game. So I mentioned this last week. Do you all know what a VR headset is? Virtual reality headset. Okay, put the headset on. Now the headset starts each day with 1,000 points. Put it on the board. Every time you look at a sense object, depending on its mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, it takes away 10 points, 50 points, 100 points. And if you don't end up with any points in a day, you have to start again and rebirth. Okay? So we have to learn the modes and the modes of nature to engage ourselves. That's why in Krishna consciousness we have foods which are in the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance, the mode of goodness. And what we understand Krishna wants to eat when we eat and prepare food above the modes of nature. Right, so where the mind is important. Yep. So where the mind is important because it can bring you in contact with the modes of nature or bring you above those modes, depending on how you approach. That's it from me. Sorry to repeat from last week, but it's important to do stuff. Any questions?
Can you put a lot, but it's all the time, so I don't know if people want to read or what.
What time is it now?
7:42. Yeah, what was I going to say?
Well, you need comments.
There's a few things that you can say. First thing is, Prabhupada mentioned in the verse of Bhagavad Gita's lecture in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says that, because he mentions that there's like karma, akarma, and vikarma.
Yeah.
So anyway, in the lecture he says that actually there's only karma and akarma, and vikarma is just like under the subheading of karma. Because it's karma, which means you're doing actions that, really they're self-interested, but they're sanctioned by Krishna because you're following the Vedic system, you're following the Vedic injunction. And then there's vikarma, which is you're not following, what is stated in the. So in either case, it's kind of selfish. One is just more selfish because you don't even care about whatever the Vedic injunctions are saying. The other one is that you are following it, but still it's for yourself.
Yeah.
And then there is akarma, which means that all your actions you're doing, selflessly, as connected with Krishna.
Yeah, that's right. You can make a fundamental distinction between all acts for Krishna and acts that are not for Krishna. Because anything that's not for Krishna is going to shove you back into modes of nature.
Yeah.
And of course, where you end up, goodness or ignorance or a fly or a saint even. You can be a saint and not achieve Krishna. Because you can keep being reborn in the mode of goodness. I mean, eventually, luckily, you'll probably get there. But it's not of its own, without devotional service, not of its own enough. Whereas in the reverse, if you just act for Krishna, you will get the same equality because you are unearthing the material energy off your soul in the embodied position. Yeah. So the reverse works very quickly. In fact, Prabhupada's message, which this is important actually, very important. Prabhupada's message was, people think, oh, that's too simple to be cross. Can't be true. But actually, that means you're relying on the mind, which is part of the body, as we discussed, just as much as the arm is. Don't rely on the body too much. You know, go to Bhakti, which will give you the faith, and Krishna will carry you. Yeah. Anything else? Any thoughts?
I also had realization a couple of weeks ago. I was thinking about Duryodhana and Arjuna. They go to visit Krishna in where's Krishna's Dwarka, yeah, sorry. And then so Krishna's asleep, you know, and then Arjuna goes to his head, you know, to his bedside, and then
Arjuna goes to his feet, Duryodhana goes where his head is.
Okay.
It's other way around.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Yeah. So anyway, you know, in that transaction, then Duryodhana is happy to get Krishna's army, where Arjuna is just happy to have Krishna. And I was thinking, actually this is like an analogy, is that those who are demonic, have demoniac mentality, they want Krishna's energy to use for their own selfish, for their own selfish motives. And then when you want to use it against Krishna, defy God's existence and use Krishna's energies for their own enjoyment. That's the typical example of Duryodhana. And then there's Arjuna, who just wants Krishna, and he's happy to whatever instructions Krishna gives, then he's happy to follow. I mean that.
Yeah, that's very good because that links into. I mean, this is a bit more of a raw way of looking at it, but we're actually thieves. We're enjoying material energy, which is Krishna's energy for ourselves. That's why we ended up in this problematic position, to go through old age and death and disease as well. And as soon as we realise that we're not the proprietor, that it all belongs to Krishna, we'll stop wanting it. In Australia, I see this wonderful thing. When I find legally, as a legal theorist, I find it interesting. When we go to a hall or something, they go, "Hey, these are the lands of the whatever people, and we recognise that they're the lands of these people, right?" And they go, it's like me going to my neighbour, going, "Look, I'm borrowing your car. I recognise it's yours, but you can't have it back. So will you keep using it?" It's kind of a really strange way of looking at morality. I kind of think this is what's happened under the modes of nature. That what you in a mode of ignorance, you see what is right as wrong, and what is wrong as right. That's what Krishna is saying in chapter 14 on the modes of nature. And this idea of possessing the Lord's, anything to do with the Lord, without acknowledging it first and recognizing it can only legitimately be used for the Lord. And this body that you're possessing is the Lord, which is energy. The only legitimate reason you can possess it, right? I mean, if I go back to my car example, I used to think about this, is maybe if I'm going to be that bad and steal my neighbour's car, I'd at least go, hang on, can I go to the supermarket and get you some food because I've taken your car? Can I do something for you today? Can I drop you somewhere? No, it's not even that. We just want to enjoy the car for ourselves. It's crazy, And that has repercussions. Eventually the police are going to come around, right? The Yamadutas are going to come around and go, hang on a minute, you nicked this material energy, which is this body, for yourself. Here's your sentence. You can't get away from that. You can't keep stealing the car that doesn't belong to you and using it for yourself. I mean, maybe the neighbour will let you off if you kind of recognise the ownership of it. That's quite a good parallel to the Bhagavad Gita. If you start recognising God a bit by giving a little bit, maybe, But this neighbour is very, very kind and compassionate. If you recognise it's his car, he'll let you have it a bit more until you get fed up with it and give it back to them. That's what's going to happen to you in Bhakti. So, anyway. Anything else?
Yeah. So I was also in the Bhagavatam class this morning, devotee, who's across the street. He gave a nice Bhagavad class.
Yeah.
I was impressed.
Yeah.
And he was saying that, if we work and then we give a percentage of the fruit of our labor then to Krishna, then we'll be reminded this connection will be there that actually everything belongs to Krishna. So we have to give something to like a compensation for utilizing his energy. So whatever work we're doing has to be offered to him, and then we'll develop that mood of detachment, and slowly we'll come to a stage where we want to work and offer everything for him in a favorable way. And I was thinking about actually people who are of other faiths, like Muslims and Christians, and Buddhists, or mainly Christians from different Christian denominations. Then I say, oh, you don't want the book? Okay, no problem. You're a religious person. Why don't you just give a donation to, why don't you give a donation to our church? You're worshiping God, And they'll say, no, I'm giving donation already to my church. And already,
Right.
So then I'm wondering, what is their situation where they're giving to God, but they're only giving to their, in their box, where they have their conception of God is only in my, Roman Catholic Church or whatever.
Yeah, I can answer that question, because that's something that comes up a lot. I'll make a point. You made 2 points. I'll make a point about the first point. Prabhupada is giving us the direction, give 50% away. He's giving us for a reason, because that's the level where you turn into bhakti. You're getting the concessions because of Prabhupada. Do what Prabhupada says. That's my first piece of advice. Because he's done the hard work for you. Right. Secondly, whatever path you choose, Bhagavad Gita makes it clear, eventually you will come back to Krishna. It's just, they worship in an indirect way. Krishna is saying exactly that phrase, indirect way. Pious action always will be performed because they increase your chances of getting some mode of goodness, increase your chances of getting a human body, increase your chances of being more pious, which will eventually bring you to Krishna. Now, the reason in the Bhagavad Gita is this, because there's a distinction between the level of false ego you have and whether you can approach the personal form of the Lord or the impersonal form of the Lord. If you look at Christianity or Islam for them, right? This is why they're equally as they're part of Krishna. But nothing exists without Krishna, right? And the person has to be purified in that process to go, okay, the Father, Jesus goes, the Father. We don't know much about the Father, right? We don't know who that third person is. So that's a form of impersonalism. Allah, all-powerful, almighty, which is correct. Krishna is, but it's not the personal feature. The reason why Krishna is allowing you to go impersonally at that stage of your karmic journey, from our point of view, is because you're going to create offences and fall down. So even following another path with the correct intent of that path is going to get you purified in time. Right? These people say, oh, but they're killing, Jews are sacrificing animals and all that stuff. Well, they've sacrificed animals, it's up to you then. But it's about that being laid down because of your previous karmic history to reform your adverse karma to get you purified. Yeah? So you can, when you come and see God as a person, right, if I see somebody in the street who I don't really know and I'm not very refined as a human being, I might offend them if I meet them for the first time, second time. Right? Krishna's making sure, because he loves you, that when you do come closer and closer to him, you're not going to be offensive. That's what this purification is about. It's getting your bodily conception out of the way so you can approach him directly with purity. So you're not going to create this insult a devotee or insult an important or actually insult him accidentally. And that will slow down your process because he wants you to come back to him. So that's if that answers that question. Rather than Swami is very good at this in his talks. He does a very good. In fact, you haven't seen it, watch the YouTube talk with him and Colonel West. It's fantastic. You know, he's a very famous Christian preacher. You know, you see that the reason he's able to stand in the pulpit with Colonel West, not like he's not in that false designation of this is something that's not us, because everything's a part of God. You know, I used to do this thing where I used to draw a round circle and had spokes going into the middle of it. If you can see that, and a little circle in the middle. Outside of the circle are people who don't believe in God. The different spokes represent the different religions. And there are people who believe in those different religions. And they see only the spokes. They say, this is my religion, that's your spoke, that's not me, it's not valid. But the people in the middle of the circle, as they get closer to God in the middle, they see the similarities of all the faiths. They see all faiths as a part of love towards God. Okay? They didn't have these bodily distinctions of I and mine, because everything must be part of God. And that is the nation of the spirit.
Kirtan Adelaide. Leave a like and subscribe.